Good afternoon, boys and girls. This is Coach Jones, and I'm here to finish our lesson that we started off with today. Now, I do want to review dividing a whole number by a fraction. Now, remember, when you take a whole number and you're dividing it into 1/3, your answer is actually going to end up to be bigger than what you started with because you're taking your wholes and you're dividing them each up into thirds. So I end up with 12 groups of 1/3. So in your man, if you didn't already, I know the first class didn't, I want you to write, when dividing whole numbers by a fraction, your quantity will increase. Okay, your quantity will increase. And at any time of this video, if you need to stop and pause it, you can do that so that you can move on to the next section. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to where we left off. Dividing fractions by a whole number. Now, some of you did make it through this part, but I know, once again, my first class did not. So we're going to follow the directions, and our first example is going to be 1/4 divided by 3. Okay? So we're going to take 1/4 and we're going to divide it up into 3 groups. So our answer, our quantity is actually going to decrease this time. 1/4 of a cookie left, and I had to share it with two other people, counting me. So 3 people, then each person's, that's going to end up being smaller than 1/4, isn't it? Okay, so let's draw our model. It says draw a model representing your fraction and then shade to represent it. So since we only have 1/4, 1/4 is less than a whole, so we only have to draw 1 whole. Now our denominator tells us to divide the model into parts determined by our whole number. So we're going to divide it into, okay, and I have 1/4. So each of these parts is 1/4. Now, just like when we multiplied fractions, when you divide fractions, we end up actually multiplying. So our algorithm is 1/4 divided by 3/1, right? Okay, so remember though, we have to keep 1/4 and we have to take the inverse operation of division, which is multiplication, so we're going to change that. And then we're going to take the reciprocal. So since we're changing it to multiplication, reciprocal of 3/1, which is 1/3. Because 1/3 and 3/, you get 1 whole. Okay? So that's why we can do that. Now I'm going to change this into thirds. And I'm going to shade in my 1/3. So I have a new common denominator, which is 3 times 4, so I have 12 total parts right now, and I have 1 group of the 12. I have 1 group of the 12. So therefore, my answer would be 1/12. So 1/4 of cookie that was left over. Okay? So our answer would be, now let's go back up to the algorithm. Okay? The algorithm, we know we're going to multiply our numerator times our numerator. 1 times 1 equals 1, and 4 times 3 equals 2. This is what helps us know if our answer is reasonable. Is 1/12 reasonable? Well, yeah, because I'm dividing 1/4 up into 3 more groups. Okay? So that shows me right here, when I have to divide it up, it's going to get smaller. And the reason you have to know that once again is because of 6.3b. When dividing a fraction by a whole, the quantity will decrease. And that's definitely what happened up here, boys and girls. When we divided the whole number, the fraction by a whole number, our quantity did decrease. Okay? Now, our next section, we'll go to our next section, dividing a fraction. Now, this one's a little bit trickier. Okay? So we're dividing a fraction by a fraction. So example 1. And like I said, you can stop this video at any time to pause it and get caught up. 1/2 divided by 1/4. Okay? Now, once again, I'm going to model the first fraction, which I have 1 whole, and then I have 1/2 of it. So here's my half. Okay? Now, we're taking it and dividing it by 1/4. So we can divide our fraction into fourths. Need to make these a little bit farther apart. There we go. That's why we have a pencil and eraser. Okay, so now each of these are, so if this is 1/4, our total pieces are 2, 4, 6, 8. So each of these is 1/8. Now this is going to be done a little bit differently than multiplying a fraction by a fraction, because we're taking 1/2 of it and we're dividing it into fourths. Okay, we're taking 1/2 and dividing it into fourths. So 1/8 plus 1/8 equals 1/4. Another 1/8 plus another 1/8 is another 1/4. So how many fourths can we divide it up into? We can divide it up into 2 1/4. Okay, so 2 groups of 1/4. So here's 1 group, and here is 2 group, because we're taking this half and dividing it up in. Okay, Coach Jones figured out what she did wrong. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and that's why I was having a hard time with what was going on there. So 2 over 1, which equals, well, it's the afternoon for Coach Jones. All right, so we get 2 groups of 1/4, and you might want to write that in there, 2 groups. Okay, all right, so let's do example 2. And you might want to try this one on your own, so you might want to pause the video, and then you can look at my answer as we're going. Okay, so once again, we're going to take our whole, and our denominator is 3, so we're going to divide it into thirds. Okay, so this is 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. Okay, we're also going to divide this one into thirds. So 1/3. All right, so we're taking 2/3. So here's 1/3. And we're seeing how many 1/3s can we get out of 2/3. So we're seeing how many 1/3s we can get out of 2/3. So here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can get 6 1/3s out of 2/3. Okay, so therefore we have 6 over 3. Okay, so 6/3. So we're going to, 6 divided by 3 gives us 2 groups. And that's what we have right here. We have 2 groups of 1/3. So if we do the algorithm, 2/3 times 3 over 1, because we're going to keep, change, and flip. Okay, so we can simplify. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1, which gives you 2 over 1, which gives you 2. So 2/3 divided by 1/3, okay, you can get 2 groups of thirds out of 2/3. So you're seeing how many groups you can get out of 2/3. Okay, boys and girls, it said my microphone stopped working, so I wanted to make sure that you got this part. So if it stops working again, just make sure you get this part covered down at the bottom and get it written. It says when divided